GitHub Pages is a static site hosting provider. And as we mentioned in the previous video, routing in a single page application is not as straightforward as it seems if we want to deploy our application to GitHub Pages. So as a workaround, the first step is to change browser router into hash router. So we'll call the correct hash router function rather than the correct browser router function in our main JSX file. If you want to know the reason, please review the previous episode. The link is in the description. After we have shifted to hash router, let's take a look at the URL, and you'll notice that there's a hash symbol before the URI, and that means we're now using the hash router. Once this is done, we're now ready to deploy our app to GitHub Pages. Now we can't just deploy our source code to GitHub Pages because the GitHub Pages server is unable to serve the React source code. What we should do instead is to build and compile our code into a format that GitHub Pages is able to serve. Let's write a script for that. I'll create a new bash script here. If you're using Windows, you might want to install git bash to run this script. For Mac and Linux user, you should be able to run this script as it is. The first step that we want to do here is to terminate the script whenever there's an exception. We can do so by using the set-e command. Next, we'll need to run the build command to build our application. We're going to cd into the build directory, and then we'll create a new Git repository inside the build directory and push the content to our GitHub Pages branch in our GitHub repository. Let's quickly write the code. We will cd into the build folder and initialize a brand new Git repository and stage all the content inside the build folder and do a commit. Then we'll push everything to our GitHub remote repository. cd- will return us back to the folder where we were before. And now we'll make the script executable by adding the execute permission to our script. And let's run our script. Oh dear, we've got an error. Seems like the build directory is called dist rather than build. Let's change it into dist and we'll try again. Okay, seems like it's working. Now if we head to our repository, we should be able to see a new branch in the branch list. And now go to settings and click on the pages option panel on the left hand side. Make sure that you have selected deploy from a branch option here in the source drop down here and select GitHub Pages in the branch section down here. After that, click on the save button and wait for a few minutes. GitHub Pages should cook you something after that. Once that's done, you can click on the deployed link to visit your application. Now, oh shit, we're greeted by a blank page. And upon inspecting on the developer tools, the issue is our static asset is using an absolute path rather than a relative path. If you look at the URL of our website, the URL actually contains our repository name as the URI base. So we should add this behavior in our Vite configuration. Let's go back to our VS Code. We can simply get Vite to use a relative path by adding a base property inside the configuration. And the value will be /. Let's rerun our deploy script. And go back to our GitHub Pages and wait for a few minutes for GitHub to cook our application. After it is done, we'll go back to our application and refresh. And now we are greeted by our amazing app. And if I click on the links in the navbar, it's giving me the correct pages without any dramas. Oh good. And that's it. It is that easy to deploy our app to GitHub Pages. We will continue in the next lesson. I'll see you there. If you would like to see more content, consider supporting us by becoming a member at my website, Acadea.io. It is similar to Patreon, but in return, you get a lot of premium tutorials and lessons. If you can't become a member, that's totally fine. We are just happy that you are here. We spend a lot of time and energy to produce high-quality videos for you. Feel free to check out our other videos on YouTube, and if you can leave a thumbs up, you will really make my day. If you subscribe, I would jump for joy, and I'll make more videos for you. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you next time.